We are live.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, everybody on board to look at the agenda. We have 3 items, I guess, Mr. Stowe, is that what
Yes, sir.
we want to talk about tonight?
Yes, sir.
So we can, let's just go ahead and adopt the agenda, make a motion, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'm going to put a motion.
Mr. McQuarrie makes a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hurd. Any discussion? All in favor? All were in favor. 2 is, Mr. Stowe, Kevin Cheek.
So Kevin apologizes. He was planning to be here today and to share this information with you, but he could not come today. Last minute issue, so I'm just going to walk you through some information he shared with me. The Camp Dick Robinson Elementary Bus Canopy, the BG1 revision is under KDE review and comment. Stacy's addressed comments provided by KDE. The letter of notice to proceed has been submitted on our behalf, and everything is under review at KDE for that. We had an in-person pre-construction meeting last week, and contractors developing the detailed schedule. Shop drawings are being prepared. Canopy delivery is on schedule. The work is anticipated to begin in 2 weeks, and we don't anticipate any impact to the traffic. So before they complete this project, the beginning of this project, they'll be working with the principal to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. There'll be a staging and layout area that'll be provided. Outside of inclement weather, there's no anticipated delays. So substantial completion is December 30th of this year. So on return from the break in the winter, the canopy should be operational. The middle school exterior door replacement, there was a meeting this afternoon, a virtual meeting, and unless something has changed that I'm not aware of, the substantial completion on that is March the 1st. So I don't have the beginning date for that one just yet, but once we have that, we'll share it with you. Originally, they had hoped to be done by December 30th, but they have requested a change order at no cost to the district to make sure that the completion time is done by March 1. Middle school intercom, we had another meeting with it. BG1 is under revision at KDE, or has been submitted to KDE. Again, anticipated start for it is November, completion December 30th. The work will be done outside of school hours, so it will either be on a weekend or days that we're off or after hours. So at this point, everything is on schedule based on those 3 projects. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those with him not being here today, but that was substantially what he was going to share anyway.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
The only thing, and this is related to and not related to, for instance, we know that in middle school, if you're in a classroom, you can't hear the intercom. Do they have any type of emergency plan in action to be able to coordinate with them?
So they can utilize the new phone system that is in to have contact with people. Today, we even had a situation where we had a sub in the building who couldn't access some things that they needed, and they were able to open that system up so that there could be conversation between the folks in the office and that classroom. So there's something in place right now to cover if there's something that does come up like that. It's just not an intercom system. It's just through the phones.
Further questions? Let's move on to 3, District Facilities Plan Committee review and recommendations.
So as we've shared with you, there are 4 parents who've been added to the committee, 4 teachers, 4 building administrators, a district facility director, and central office staff person. All of those are voting members. I'm on the committee as well, but I'm a non-voting member. So tonight, what we had hoped to do is that perhaps you could give us suggestions of 3 community leaders that you'd like to see. If there's somebody from the local building zoning officials that you'd like to add, or we can do some work on your behalf. And then we need to select 1 board member. We have those in place on Thursday, and we'll ask you to approve this committee. So you're not approving anything tonight. You're just throwing out some names for us to secure for you. I think Brother Jerry had spoken to 1 community member this week who has said they would be willing to participate if they were asked. So if you'd like to share who that was.
Well, yes, Cliff Ed Irvin. I called him and asked him if he'd be willing to serve first of all before he put his name down. He said he would. And I told him, I said, now, we're going to have 3. And I don't know if he'll be selected or not, but he said if he was selected, he'd be willing to serve.
Okay. Any other recommendations that y'all like to make at this time?
Mr. Stoll, I have a question. I'm not, I don't know all the names that are on the plan already, but I don't see a lot of diversity there. I know that you had worked with some community leaders on an issue earlier. It would be nice if we had a little bit of diversity added to that committee.
So if you all want us to work toward that end, we can work on that on your behalf for sure. Not a problem.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yes, and I probably have some suggestions, but I wouldn't want to, like Brother Jerry, talk to these people first before I threw their names out there.
I also have a couple of names that I had in mind, and I'd like to speak to them first, Mr. Stoll, and then bring them back to you later.
So what we really need from you all is something before Thursday, if we're going to submit this. And the hope was that you'd have some names tonight so that you all can hear each other on what those are. So if you can give us names prior to Thursday, we can do that. So we'll work on a diversity piece for you, make sure you have somebody there. So we'll do some reaching out over the next couple of days. That would take care of 1 of the slots. And so that would put us with needing to fill 2.
I don't know how this goes, but I wouldn't mind volunteering as the board member if nobody else is interested.
Haven't heard from Mr. McQuarrie. Are you interested?
Really?
Yeah, I know we had talked about that.
Yeah. I'll defer to Mr. Irvin. I realize that it's the chairman's job to select him if he so chooses, but.
It's actually an election according to the process here. It's a board decision. Mr. Woods had asked that the other day, so I tried to do some research just to make sure. And when I went in and looked, it said it's a board decision. So that means you all select that as a group. 1 member can be selected by the local board to serve on the local planning committee. So however you all would want to do that, you could make that a unilateral decision tonight if you wanted to.
I'm okay with it.
Lamb,
you have a comment, Dr. Lamb?
Well, I think I heard Mr. Hurt volunteer to serve, and I don't, it doesn't matter to me. Did Mr. McQuarrie want to? I couldn't hear his comment.
I think I had my microphone turned off, so that might have been a problem. But no, I had no problem with Mr. Hurt.
Okay. Sounds like that's just kind of an agreed upon here, so I'll add Mr. Hurd to that. And then we'll work on the community piece for you, and then any names that y'all want to submit to me, if you will. I'll share all of those with you prior to Thursday, so you know who they are. So if you have folks that you want to talk with. So if you're good there, we can leave that and move on to the next one.
I would like to say this before we move on. If the district's facility plan ever meets and starts performing, I would like to be the person who would do the process.
So obviously, the first thing that we're gonna ask based on what you all have asked of us up to this point is this committee is gonna meet, and we're gonna see if they want to request a waiver. And if the waiver is requested, then that will come back to you all. If you request the waiver, then we'll process that through KDE and see if they're willing to do it. Should they reject the waiver, then we would have to have a full-blown session, and then we'd have to be looking for somebody to fill that role. But initially, we wouldn't need someone for that purpose.
Well, I'm saying if there's,
Yes, if we need
I would do that free to the board, because I won't be on the board at the time.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind.
And my resume would show that I've done many of these districts throughout Kentucky, these facilities.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
So the next one is to walk through the agenda for Thursday night. If you have a hard copy of that, you also can access it through the e-meeting if you need to, either way. Section 1 is we've got a typical section, your moment of silence, pledge to the American flag, and the adoption of the agenda. Any questions about that section? Wouldn't imagine there would be, but Section 2, communications. We have 2 sets of recognitions on Thursday night. We have Teacher of the Month being sponsored by Whole Latte Love, and then Farmers National Bank is sponsoring Students of the Month, one from each of the schools. So we will have those individuals here to recognize at the beginning of our session.
And I have 3. I know that, did you have an opportunity
Have not
to
been able to reach her yet.
call her? Well, I know they had a request.
So
Brianna Burkett, 4-inch. I don't know the student's number. I do know the grandmother.
we'll find out. Then you have the review of SBDM minutes. At this point, we have no audience comments. There'll be a section there for board members, should you have any. And then I'll share the update from the Chenoweth Law Office, the list of new hires and resignations. But again, that's just in the areas of communication. Section 3 will be reports. That'll be the treasurer's report. And Stacy is joining us remotely today. So Stacy, if you'd like to share at this point, that'd be great.
Okay, if you all have your monthly treasurer's report, we'll go over it really quick. As of September 30th, 2020, we had an ending cash balance of $6,579,293.
Stacy, hang on a second, because they're looking for it. It's online. And so if they haven't pulled it up online, give me a couple minutes with that, okay?
Okay.
Into different meetings. Sorry about that. That's on me.
So we'll have to go to the next meeting.
Yeah. If you go, just scroll up,
So what?
I think if you can, and I'll get them there real quickly.
Go to page, the download.
Just 1 second, we'll get it to you.
Placement of notes or,
Password you use.
the one that's specific for this.
Remember the password
Did
you
you write
gave?
it, did you write it down and put it in the pocket?
Like the rest of them did.
And I wrote it down and put it in the pocket, but it didn't. I don't have the right pocket, I don't think, but I remember mine.
Put mine in a note on my phone.
So what is it?
If I was Chris or Kevin, I would still need a password.
There's yours.
Oh, thank you.
It's like several different digits, 13, 14 digits. So many of them had big numbers and all.
That's it. It's down here. I just need to get it down. It's just not here. It's one of them.
There you go. No, it's just one at a time. There you go.
There's yours.
That's good.
Your password.
I don't know your password. No, it's yours. Personal.
Just go ahead.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Stacy, and I'll have him, I'll give him mine.
Okay. Okay, so our September ending balance was $6,579,293. And as you can see on your sheet, that's made up of about 11 funds. You can see the individual balances listed on your sheet. And when we compare those to this time last year, our ending cash balance has increased by approximately 1.2 million. There's several reasons for this difference, such as the later start date to the school. So we see a decreased cost in our spending, transportation, just because of the later start date. So we're kind of a month behind on that. We do have our CARES grant funding available that has went in and purchased. We've used that for a purchase of Chromebooks. And then we've also got new regulations that require the inclusion of our school activity fund in the district. So those help make up the difference between this year and last year. And then as always, on the back of this sheet, there's information that I've given you to give you a little insight into each fund. And also the monthly financial report that I provided with my notes on it again. So I'm not going to go over each of these with you. I'm hoping that you all had time to look at it, maybe over the weekend, but I am available if you have any questions on any of those.
This is awfully similar to new math. I had my first grade grandmother had to teach me how to do new math. And I can see operating a Chromebook to get it to do things that are different. I may have to have another tutorial. But she will be well up to it.
Hey, Stacy, how many years do we have left in KISTA?
In KISTA, I believe we have either this is our last year, I believe.
Good. Good. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Any comments on the budget? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next. Go ahead, Mr. Stowe.
Yeah, so then we'll move to the consent agenda, which will involve your minute approvals from the last 3 meetings that we had in September, the approval of the treasury report, and then CDR's virtual book fair that we'll ask you to approve. Then we'll move to the action items section. And once we move to the action items section, The first component will be the asking you to approve the COVID mode instruction metrics for K-12 moving forward. And basically what we're asking you to do there is allow us to align with what the state has put together from the Department of Public Health and Department of Public Education. Should we go red, then we will suspend in-person learning for the following day and the rest of that week. And then we'll review the following weekend to see if we can return on Monday. We are going to ask, I am going to ask, following a recommendation from Dr. Lamb, that was a good recommendation, that we leave available the possibility of continue going in person if we're in red, if that red is confined to a single location. So some of you may be aware of places like Rockcastle County. They have a large number of cases in the nursing home. So they didn't have the level of community spread, it was isolated. So this would keep that available should we have that. I don't anticipate that being the issue. I did talk to the health department today to ask if that would be acceptable from their perspective, and they're confirming whether that would be or not. They did say it's our choice, but we would want to have them weigh in based on the numbers. So, but that would keep us available if it was not a community-wide spread. So as part of that, we've put together a dashboard on the webpage so somebody can go in and check any day between 4 and 5 is when we update it. So usually by 5 o'clock every day, we've had an opportunity to update that, and it will tell you what status we're in. Today, for example, we're still in orange, which means we can continue to go. So what we'll be asking you on Thursday is to approve that moving forward so that we can use that as a standard plan of operation. Have spoken with our food service folks and our transportation folks, and we can switch on a moment's notice if we need to. So if we have to close, then the following day, we're able to put hot spots back out like we did previously. We're able to deliver food like we did previously to the remote sites and to bring them into the schools to do drive-throughs. So we confirmed that to make sure that we could provide those services if we had to go back to all distance, even if it was just for 1 to 5 days. And they've assured us that can be accomplished. So we wouldn't be losing any of our supports to our kids if we had to do that.
Let me ask this question. I was just caught the beginning of the 4 o'clock news this afternoon. Rockcastle is out or in virtual learning. And that is because their school community has more cases or?
This has nothing to do with the schools. This is all community driven.
No, I'm sorry. I said Rockcastle. Lincoln is back in virtual. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that because of school people?
It's because they have, it's not student related, it's adult related. So they have a large number of their staff who've had to be quarantined. They're not necessarily positive, but they've had to quarantine. That would probably be something that would happen to us before maybe even you went to red. If you have a large adult population that has that happen, then you can't provide coverage of the kids. So that would be something that would put us in. That would have nothing necessarily to do with red, orange, yellow, or green. We could be in green and only have 1 positive case, but people could have been exposed to some other situation and might have to quarantine those. So that's kind of how that operates.
Any other questions?
All right, the second thing on the action agenda is approving the purchase of 2 school buses. Those 2 buses have been budgeted for by Stacy as she was putting things together. There are 2 72 passenger buses, 1 international, 1 Bluebird. We've never purchased Bluebird before, and so I spoke with Mr. Merida, and they actually can come on site to do repair as opposed to us having to send the buses out. So he would like to make one of those purchases to see how that goes. He worked with several other directors of transportation who've had great success with them. So that's why you don't see the purchase from just 1 company. It's from 2 different companies.
for them to come on site, we pay them by the hour.
He didn't have an answer for me on that, but he'll be here Thursday and be able to answer that for you.
That we got under warranty for so many years.
Yeah. So if we had to, he would be able to answer that question. The
They
third,
haven't put seatbelts on buses yet.
I'm just kidding. I think the bigger challenge there is coming, I think. So, item C is approving capital funds request for the current construction projects. As we've shared, when you approved those projects back in September, there was some money that was going to have to be moved. We're going to move $155,582. It will leave you with $129,124 in building fund and $225,632 in the capital outlay fund. So you're not draining the funds, but we'll leave you a request for that. We'll then ask you to approve the district facilities planning committee, which we'll hopefully have in spot for you. Have an MOA from Campbellsville on the student-teacher agreement, so that we can have those students in our county who work, and that helps us with recruitment. We'll have an MOA on EKU student teaching. Again, that's a support for all of us. EKU dual credit scholarship program is an MOA that we'll need to approve so that our students can continue to take advantage of the dual credit opportunities. Next will be the approval of the Briggs and Stratton gasoline engines that I'd shared with you previously. So if you have any questions about that, happy to step back and answer those. It is a unique situation that we're asking you to approve them. And then the final one is refinement of the public comment section of the board meeting. So it's eliminating options and going into a 5-minute cap for any individual who has to speak.
Okay, what was those changes again? 5 minutes?
5 minutes. And you can't bank time. In other words, if 5 people want to speak about a topic, they can't give each of their 5 minutes to one individual. They each can speak their 5 minutes. It doesn't say the same time, but it needs to come from the individuals.
And I believe I understood you say you covered, like, if 5 or 6 people want to speak on the same topic, step one.
Was it you, Mr. Woods, that
me.
Was that
recommended
you?
something like that?
No, I said it to Mr. Stowe on Friday morning, so I guess Mr. Stowe mentioned it.
Well, that might be what it was, then, yeah. Well, that would cover that too.
That is, if 6 people sign up, they're gonna say the same thing. The board chairman must take those 6 and see how they're gonna respond. And if they're all gonna say the same thing,
And have a
then
spokesperson.
the board chairman shall ask them to select one person to speak the same
Good idea.
language
For 5 minutes.
for 5 minutes.
And they can't give time to each other.
Right.
I wasn't at the last meeting. Probably the other question was this have come out of the last board meeting? Somebody, is it something that we've been thinking about?
We had a public comment, and when I looked at the form that currently existed, it says, how much time would you like? 1, 3, 5, 10, 15.
Right.
It felt like that was too
I see.
too unclear. And in most cases, you probably don't need to have a 15-minute conversation around that. If we need that kind of conversation, probably needs to be a bigger conversation than just here. So 5 minutes is fairly standard, it seems like, from things that I was able to see. There are places that limited to 3, but 5 seems to be a fair spot.
Questions, Dr. Lamb? You have anything?
Oh, I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're sending a clear message and sending the message that we want to send to our community. And so I see myself as elected to serve the community. I was elected by the people to serve them in this capacity. And so while I understand the necessity of time management, I don't want there to be any mistake that this is an effort to quiet the voice of our community. And so
Look,
I understand why we're doing it in terms of time management, but I also want to be very careful that the message we're sending is the message we want to send and not one of an effort to silence our community. I'd like to hear from more of our community, not less. And I think I said that to Mr. Stoll, and we had a conversation about that. So I understand the need for having this, but I also think there could be circumstances or situations where we would want to grant an exception. Perhaps there is more to be said than what can be said in 5 minutes, and I wouldn't want to deny that if the community felt like they needed more than 5 minutes.
would the policy have an open language, you know?
So I think anytime you have something like this, the board chair can always grant an exception.
I agree.
So I don't
Yeah,
think
we
there's
want-
anything that we put in place that would prevent that if there was a need. I would again say that I don't think this necessarily limits anybody. As a matter of fact, it could expand opportunities. Because by allowing it to be a 5-minute period, you could accommodate more people in a block of time than if somebody was picking a 15-minute session for that. So I think if we approach it the right way, it doesn't have to come across as being asking anyone not to speak. It's just giving them some parameters to work within.
And the person that spoke, that asked for 15 minutes, did an excellent job, and he probably didn't take 5 minutes.
She did a great job.
She did a great job, presented the case.
And I think that showed how effective 5 minutes could be.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was something you could have worded and played in several locations would have been beneficial. So, and nothing trying to ask her not to speak. It was a learning experience for us. I think this would be a potentially valuable opportunity for people to understand they can come and share with you and have those expectations.
Yeah, Mr. Stoll, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think if we frame this in such a way that the purpose of it is to help the community to understand that they're welcome to come share with the board, and here's the process for doing that. So I think I think it could be framed in such a way that it actually is helpful to the community.
Thing that's concerning to me is, let's say we have a major topic, and all of y'all here for this major topic, okay? Do you have a spokesperson? Well, my views on a major topic may be different from yours and yours, and my delivery may be different, and I'll be coming at it from a different direction. So I need to be careful on how we limit thoughts on those topics.
And that's where the sign-up sheet
I don't think
comes in.
that would happen, since we're asking for this in advance. If somebody was going to speak this Thursday, they would have shared their interests by today. And that would give us ample opportunity to make sure that everybody who needed to speak could. What Mr. Woods was sharing earlier was not a requirement at all. He was using that from the perspective that if everybody came in and said, we're basically going to say the same thing, we're okay with this post, they can do that. If you have 6 people who want to share, then we'll have time for 6 people to share. So it's not, there's no intent to limit here. It's designed specifically to say, here's the block of time that you have. And then once you've had your opportunity, we'll move on and let the next person, because you're right. All 5 of us and then Dr. Lamb being the 6th could feel similarly about something, but want to say it in a different fashion. So this does not limit that in any way.
Okay, other comments?
I agree with something, 5 minutes, probably for good.
And that's it. That'll be as far as we need to go. So you just need a motion.
All right, so we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Second by motion and second.
That's it.
All in favor? All were in favor. Thank you
See
all.
y'all on Thursday.
Wow.